All right, let's go to the next one here from the Department of Homeland Security with a new intelligence gathering program that, quote, nobody knew anything about. Let's put this up there on the screen from Politico. Betsy Woodruff getting the scoop. Quote, a new program called the Overt Human Intelligence Collection Program, described in a large tranche of internal documents, has revealed widespread internal concerns about legally questionable tactics and political pressure. The documents show that people working there fear punishment if they speak out about mismanagement and abuses. One unnamed employee in April 2021 said that the leadership of this office is, quote, shady and runs like a corrupt government. Another said employees were so worried about the legality of their activities, they wanted their employer to cover legal liability insurance for exactly what they were doing. All of this comes down to the fact that you have this new program where they were trying to exploit a loophole. And the loophole, as they explain it, is that officials work with state, local, and private sector partners, collect intel, and analyze the intel. Now, exactly what they're doing, though, is that they were able to speak with prisoners who are already inside of the system, Krystal, without notifying their lawyers and potentially violating civil liberties. So one of the things is that the Title 50 that governs the way that the intelligence agencies are supposed to conduct themselves restrict the collection, maintenance, and dissemination of U.S. persons' information and place additional emphasis on preserving the privacy and civil liberties of U.S. persons. Now, one of the things that they fear is both the retaliation from all of this, but also, quote, the politicization, because they were worried that the use of this new program could be used to target people who have sensitive intelligence that is available to the U.S. government by directly violating their civil liberties and using it in connections from both the January 6th investigation, but also the George Floyd investigation. So I think that this is a perfect example of how when the Trump administration is in power, they are violating, potentially, I'll say allegedly, violating the civil liberties of prisoners without notifying lawyers and squeezing them with this new intelligence program around the George Floyd investigation. And then the Biden administration is using it against on January 6th. This is a perfect example of the bloating of government and the violation of civil liberties within the Department of Homeland Security.
Yes, and the way that every administration can use the existing powers that actually exist and also powers that they claim and are probably actually illegal and unconstitutional, but that they keep secret in order to pursue their own aims, and why it's really important that these issues be discussed in a nonpartisan way, because it goes so much deeper than whether it happens to be a D or an R who holds the office of the presidency. So there's a few things here. I mean, first of all, the fact that they're using this, what you described accurately, as what they see as a loophole to speak to incarcerated individuals who have not been put on trial yet, who have been Mirandized, without the presence of their lawyer, this is as dicey as it gets. They have a quote here from Patrick Toomey, who's deputy director of the ACLU's National Security Project. He said DHS should not be questioning people in immigration or criminal detention for human intelligence purposes without far stronger safeguards for their rights. While this questioning is purportedly voluntary, DHS's policy ignores the coercive environment these individuals are held in. It fails to ensure that individuals have a lawyer present, and it does nothing to prevent the government from using a person's words against them in court. So let me break that down for you. They have these guidelines in place where supposedly when they go in to talk to these inmates, they're supposed to present themselves. You don't have to talk to us. And they are also, they are not allowed to offer anything in exchange for whatever it is that this person is going to tell them. But imagine that you're sitting there in a prison cell and someone from DHS comes and says they want to speak with you. I mean, imagine what an intimidating and confusing circumstance that is for the individual. So that's what he is referring to here of the coercive environment. And then at the end, he says it does nothing to prevent the government from using a person's words against them in court. Well, if that information that is gleaned from the DHS individual then ends up in the hands of, you know, people who are involved in this person's case, police officers, prosecutors, etc., there's no provisions to protect that information from being used against these people people that was obtained, again, without their lawyers present. So it's a civil liberties nightmare. And you know it's a civil liberties nightmare because even within this program, she has quote after quote after quote of employees being deeply concerned that they're breaking the law and even insisting that they receive professional liability insurance in case they end up being held liable for the actions that they're taking here. And they also had numerous times where something that they were told was okay, and this is what you should go and do, and here's the proper protocol, that all of a sudden there was a hard stop of like, yeah, let's not do that. Actually, I'm not sure. We got some guidance. So the fact that it was so unclear made people deeply uncomfortable. They also expressed, and this was not like a few isolated people. This was like the majority of people who were
their
involved.
own employees who are like, hey, this is not
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have deep concerns expressed here in these documents that are revealed about the political targeting that you mentioned, and also deep concerns. This is what people were willing to say. There were also deep concerns that they were terrified to actually speak out and say anything because they feared for their job or to be put in some, undesirable post and sort of like pushed to the side because of criticism.
I don't think people understand that DHS is the largest law enforcement agency in the United States. I mean, they are gigantic in terms of their overview of thousands of law enforcement officers who work there. There are all kinds of crazy and sketchy intel programs within them that you and I have no idea about. I feel like I learn about a new domestic surveillance program every 6 months.
Same.
The other day, I remember whenever we were covering this over at Rising, turns out the Postal Service is spying on you. Right. It's like, I didn't know. It's not, by the way, not about your mail. Like they're using records that they have to have like essentially lookups and have a complete warrantless surveillance program on your cyber movements. And I was like, what does the Postal Service have to do with it? They exploit all kinds of these legal loopholes. There are internal agencies that are sprung up everywhere. And then what have we also learned, church committee going all the way back, which is even the modest guidelines that we have laid out for these people. Okay, if you're gonna spy in the US, here's what you gotta do, here's what you can't do. They go to extraordinary lengths to break them. They don't follow the rules, and then in many cases, their own employees are like, hey, we're not following the rules. And then also, how did we even find out about this? It was leaked to the press.
Yeah.
Well, it's supposed to come through congressional committee, and then not only that, you're supposed to have an inspector general process or even Congress write new rules to say, okay, legally, this is what you're allowed to do. It never happens.
Yeah.
They just keep expanding and expanding. They break the law all the time.
Counterpoints is obviously going to have a show tomorrow, and Ryan and Emily will cover this themselves. But our own Ryan Grimm was in the press briefing room and asked Karine Jean-Pierre about it was revealed that a member of Congress was spied on by the government. And he asked, hey, what's going on with that? Tell us who it was. Wouldn't say anything. And there is so little curiosity from almost anyone else in the mainstream press about any of these issues. I mean, this should be a bombshell report from Betsy Woodruff. It's well reported. It's, deep, very detailed with all of the concerns and the complaints and the civil liberties violations, et cetera. And it barely gets noticed in the mainstream press.
That's because they support it. I think that they like the fact that the government can do all this because then the government does what? They leak whatever sensitive information they can to the press, and the rest of us just get to scream into the void.
To be honest with you, it's, I think, because Joe Biden is in the office of the presidency right now, they feel more comfortable with
Of course.
If this came out during the Trump administration, then they would potentially be more worried about its weaponization. But it shouldn't matter which president it is when you have these sort of abuses consistently occurring against American citizens.
Absolutely.
Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Saagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us. And if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.